Welcome everyone. Surrender as part of the spiritual process is always to the force of divine or to divine. Surrender is not to an external form. It's not to another person. Surrender is always to the force. You can relate to the force as Guru Shakti. You can relate to force as the force of divine grace. However you relate to it, surrender is always to that force. Surrender does not mean giving up your agency. Surrender does not mean abdicating your responsibilities. Surrender is an allowing, an offering up to something greater. So who is doing the surrendering? Your ego self, the who you are, that massive collection of samskaras that you know as your personality, that most of us know as who we are, surrenders to the what you are, your higher self. From this, you can see it's an internal process. Your lower nature, your mind, your desires, your intellect, your ego is surrendering its impulses, its desires, its ideas, its beliefs, its opinions to your own higher self, to your own divine self, so that something greater, something divine can manifest in this system. Surrender is to this force in the context of the transcendence technique and our practice. We are surrendering to that force as it descends into our system to transform us. If you state it as an offering up, you are offering up your individual samskaras up to this force so that you may be transformed. If you look at surrender as an allowing, then you are viewing it from the perspective of witnessing. You are allowing this force to operate and transform, while the you just acts as the space in which all this happens. So when we surrender, you can also view it as a sacrifice. You are offering up as a yajna. That portion of you, your lower nature, that no longer serves a divine purpose. And you're offering it up to divine. You are surrendering it to divine. Last week we talked about rejection, rejecting those impulses that arise from our nature. Surrender is also an effort, just like rejection is. It cannot be passive. You cannot say, well, divine will do even the surrender for me. It has to be an active offering up, a glad, a willing surrender. We have to surrender all the components, every part of the being. You're not just surrendering your desires, you're surrendering your mind's ideas, your beliefs, your intellectual theories. You are surrendering your individual identity. Anything that you are identified with, you have to surrender. And there cannot be any reserve. This is not something, surrender is not something that happens in one fell swoop or suddenly. Surrender happens in stages. Each time you surrender something, you grow in consciousness. Each time you awaken, which, as we have already seen, is a continuous process. We became aware of something in us that we were not aware of previously. And then now, this new thing that we are aware of, we have to surrender. We have to transform that piece of us. And why do you have to surrender? Because we are that divine spark. We have agency. We have free will. And the only way this works is when we surrender that and allow divine to descend into us and transform us. If universe and life is so far out of balance at the elemental layer, why, if there is a God, an intelligence that created this universe, why doesn't it just snap its fingers and fix it? Because it's bound by its own cosmic laws. You are that. You are a portion of that intelligence. And in the exercise of your own free will, you made a series of choices. The consequences of these choices have in aggregate across all people, across all time, resulted in life as we know it today. And if we want it to be different, because we have now awakened to the peril of where we are, then the same way each one of us has to consciously, willingly make choices. to alter it. To allow this force in, we have to consciously choose. That is the surrender. You are allowing that force in. Then when it starts working and it's uncomfortable and it's painful and you really would rather not feel what you're feeling, you surrender that. Your own preference for how you like to feel. You surrender your opinions. It should be this way. You surrender your preferences. It's too hot, it's too cold. As the degree of surrender grows in your system, the less resistance there will be. The less resistance to this force, the less the perceived suffering, that which you call I am suffering, goes down. Because the suffering that we are experiencing is a direct function of our resistance to what is, to this force as it is coming into creation. In fact, you've heard of people say, live in the present moment. What is that? To live in the present moment, you have to accept this moment as it shows up. What does accept as it is mean? Another way to state it is you are surrendering to life as you are experiencing it in this moment. Not wishing it to be any different than it is right now. You're surrendering all those voices in your head that have all these theories and beliefs and want you to do this and want you to do that and think you're doing this and wrong. And you have to allow those samskaras the space to be seen, felt, experienced, but not act, reject their impulses, so that they can arise and pass and complete. And slowly, as this degree of surrender grows, the more free rein grace has to operate in our system, making us more and more divine. The hard part about surrendering is to even realize that this is something that needs to be surrendered. In the beginning, you're not even aware, because it's such a part of you. Your ground truths. You think that's just the way life is. Cannot see it as anything but that. Surrendering the individual sense of self, your own ego. That's where the real challenges and obstacles show up. That's the real battle. But it's a process. It's a gradual process. In the process of surrender, be soft to yourself. Be kind to yourself. Be gentle.